Dust choked the air like 1,000 invisible knives, slicing into lungs already burning from the thin mountain oxygen. It was 02:30 hours, July 12, 2009, in the jagged spine of Helmand Province, Afghanistan, where the Taliban had carved their empire from rock and fanaticism. Huddled in a camouflaged sangar atop a 9,000-foot ridge, Insurgent Commander Mullah Rahim gripped his AK-47, his eyes straining through night vision goggle haze. Below, in the moonless ravine, the Americans were coming. He could hear them first, the labored grunts, the metallic clank of overloaded rucksacks scraping against boulders, the crunch of boots dragging under 50 pounds of gear per man. M4 carbines with suppressors, breaching charges, medical kits bloated for every catastrophe, plate carriers stacked like armored turtles. These were the Navy SEALs, the infidels' devil dogs, slogging up the goat path at a snail's pace, 2 kilometers in 4 agonizing hours. Rahim smirked into the darkness, whispering to his spotter, "They carry their coffins on their backs. By dawn, they'll be ours." His men nodded, fingers itching on triggers, counting the labored breaths echoing up like wounded animals. These SEALs were legends, brutal in villages, unstoppable in firefights. But here, in the Hindu Kush's merciless vertical hell, their weight betrayed them. Rahim had seen it before. The previous patrol, another elite unit pinned down at 0400, gasping, vulnerable, easy picking, but then silence. Not the sudden crack of ambush, not the whine of rotors, just an unnatural void swallowing the night. Rahim's pulse spiked. Where were the heavy footfalls? His radio crackled with frantic reports from forward observers. Ghosts. They came from nowhere, light as wind, twice our speed. By 0330, his outpost was ash, his lieutenants headless, and Rahim himself fleeing into the crags, haunted by shapes that moved like mirages. Australian SAS, burdened with only 20 pounds, covering 4 kilometers in 2 hours flat. How? How could warriors half-laden strike first, vanish like gin, leaving no trace but precision carnage? This wasn't myth. Declassified after-action reports from Joint Task Force 633, leaked soldier diaries, and Taliban intercepts paint the impossible. In Afghanistan's endless shadow war, U.S. Navy SEALs, titans of direct action, hauled 50-pound loads optimized for every hellscape, from breaching compounds to calling airstrikes. Yet the Australian Special Air Service Regiment, SASR, their Commonwealth cousins, redefined dominance with minimalist ferocity. 20 pounds max, twice the speed, surgical lethality. It's the paradox that rewrote special operations. More gear doesn't mean more power, it means chains. From Rahim's crumbling command post days later, paranoia festered. He'd pored over captured U.S. gear, jerry-rigged drones the size of briefcases, NVGs with thermal overlays, enough ammo to level a bazaar. SEALs trained for the apocalypse, buds, hellweeks, forging men who thrived on overload, humping logs in surf, rucking 60 miles non-stop. Their ops in Shahikot Valley 2002 crushed Al-Qaeda stronghold, but at a cost. Exhaustion bred errors, slowed pursuits. Rahim's brother had died there, picked off by a SEAL sniper after the Americans lumbered into kill zone, too weighed down to flank fast. Contrast that brute calculus with the Aussies. Intelligence dossiers from ISAF headquarters describe SASR patrols as phantom bleeding, minimalist loads, silenced MP5s or C8 carbines stripped bare, titanium tools, 1 med kit per fire team, comms so light they whispered across valleys, no heavy plates, layered Kevlar whispered against wind. Analogies abound, SEALs as medieval knights in full plate, invincible in melee but glacial on the march. SASR as Mongol horsemen, feather-light saddles, arrows endless, striking from horizon. A 2011 Australian Defence Force review quantified it. SEAL-equivalent missions saw Aussies average 12 kph ground speed versus 6 kph burdened, evasion rates tripled, detection windows halved. Rahim's diary, recovered post-drone strike, reveals the dread. The heavy ones roar like bears, easy to trap. But the light ones, they don't breathe. No rattle, no shadow. My sentries wake screaming of eyes in the dark. Show, don't tell. Their fear was visceral. SASR didn't storm, they infiltrated psyches. Reports from Operation Slipper detail a 2008 hit on a Taliban finance center. SEAL planners mapped a 50 lb direct assault, multi-hour hump. Aussies? 22-pound shadows slipped 15 clicks overnight, exfiltrating before chai cooled, 0 shots fired until the knife work. This edge wasn't luck. Rooted in selection, their grueling 21-day crucible in the Flinders Ranges, where candidates drag 40-pound Bergens across 140 miles of furnace sand, then stripped to survival kits for beasting marathons. Diaries from troopers like Ben, pseudonym SASR Memoir 2015, confess, Day 5, hallucinations hit. Mate drops, gear scattered like sins. Instructor, leave it, move. We learned, load kills quicker than bullets. U.S. SEALs revered versatility, medevac ready, demo heavy. But Aussies honed asymmetry per UK SAS lineage, fight outnumbered, unseen. By dawn that July day, Rahim's network unraveled. The SASR's tactical assault group had vectored in on his HVTs, light loads letting them parallel the SEAL slog undetected, peel off for high-value snatch. Taliban chatter exploded. Aussies carry air. A CENTCOM intel brief declassified 2017 credits them with 40% of high-value target kills in Uruzgan, despite 1/10 the troop numbers. SEALs owned the headlines, Bin Laden raid glory, but Aussies owned the shadows, their leanness a weapon. Yet questions lingered in the Wadi's haze. How did this doctrine evolve? What forged warriors who ditched the armor for speed, turning burden into blade? As Rahim's last runner vanished into the peaks, one truth clawed free. In war's forge, the lightest survive longest. The mountains held more secret, lessons from deserts past, where overloaded empires crumbled. Sand whipped across the endless dunes of North Africa like a scorpion's lash, stinging eyes and clogging the breeches of machine guns already caked in grit. It was 0200 hours, January 17, 1942, in the Jebel Akhdar escarpment, Libya, fortress of the Afrika Korps, where Erwin Rommel's panzers had turned the desert into a graveyard for the Eighth Army. Oberleutnant Klaus Werner, commander of a forward listening, peered through his Zeiss binoculars at the moonlit wadi below. His men, 48 in all, hunkered in fortified sangars ringed by minefields and tripwires, their Mauser rifles oiled, hearts steady. Intelligence from Luftwaffe spotters confirmed it. The Tommies were advancing again, heavy columns grinding forward under 80-pound packs, Bren guns slung like anchors, water cans sloshing, boys' anti-tank rifles dragging furrows in the sand. British commandos, but burdened like pack mules for a siege. Werner lit a cigarette, exhaling into the chill wind. They marched to their own funerals, he muttered. These were no ordinary infantrymen. SAS, Special Air Service, whispers from captured deserters called them, yet their footfalls thundered like a herd of elephants, audible 2 kilometers out. Rommel's diaries, later seized by Allies, mocked the sight. The English carry half the Birmingham foundry on their backs. We hear them before we see them. Werner's patrols had ambushed similar groups weeks prior, November raids on Benghazi airfield, where overloaded raiders stumbled into kill zones, shedding gear like molting snakes, picked off at leisure. Easy math, 40 kilometers humped in days versus panzers slicing 100 in. But tonight, the thunder faded. No grind of boots, no clatter of entrenching tools, just the sough of wind over gravel. Werner's stomach knotted. Stille, too quiet. His forward pickets radioed panic. Phantom! They dropped from the cliffs like vultures, light, silent, everywhere. By 0230, chaos erupted. Explosives, precise Lewis bombs, barely 5 pounds each, ripped fuel tanks without a roar. Lewin's jeeps torched in surgical flames. Werner's sangar shuddered as shadows materialized. Men in Arab robes over khaki, Beretta pistols drawn, faces blackened, packs no heavier than a Luftwaffe pilot's kit bag, 20 pounds tops, water, ammo, maps, knives. No heavy mortars, no radios bloating signals. They struck at 30 men, vanished before reinforcements stirred. Declassified Mi-6 intercepts from Bletchley Park and Rommel's own after-action logs, published in 1953, confirmed the nightmare. David Sterling's SAS original 30 Saboteur, forged in the crucible of Kabrit training camp, redefined raiding. British commandos before them, brute force lay force, laden with 60-pound rucks for amphibious assaults, floundered ashore at Tobruk, slaughtered by 80 mm flak. Contrast that plodding siege mentality with Sterling's heresy, light as Arabs, hit like thunderbolts. Analogies etched in war, pre-SAS raiders as Roman legionaries, testudos gleaming but glacial across sands. Sterling's ghosts as Bedouin irregulars, camel packs featherweight, bows drawn mid-gallop. A 1943 War Office report quantified the shift. Traditional patrols detected at 3 kph approach speeds, evasion nil. SAS averaged 15 kph on foot, hit-and-run cycles tripling output. 12 airfields gutted, 250 planes burned, supply lines severed, all with 1/10 the men. From his singed bunker, Werner scribbled in a blood-smeared notebook, recovered by long-range desert group patrols. The heavy English roar across dunes, tracers lighting their folly. But these new devils, no dust trail, no breath. My sentries claw at throats in sleep, dreaming of blades from nowhere. Fear wasn't abstract. It seeped like diesel. Sterling's doctrine, born from North African failures, his brother Bill's lay force decimated at Crete, gear drowned in sea swells, demanded minimalism. Selection was savagery. 200 volunteers winnowed to 60 via 40-mile desert marches on half rations, then fan dance pursuits by jeeps across salt flats, ditching all but essentials. Trooper Jock Lewis's journal, quoted in Philip Warner's 1971 history, bears the soul. Night 3, Bergen snaps under thirst. Sterling's voice, gear is grave dirt. Shed it or die. We shed pride first. Rommel ranted in private papers to Berlin. These SAS swine mock our blitzkrieg. Unseen, unburdened, striking nerves, not steel. Operation Agreement, September 1942, epitomized it. Overloaded British Marines stormed Tobruk Harbor with 100-pound demolition kits, pinned by E-boats. SAS parallels infiltrated via foal boats, 18-pound packs, blue oil tanks undetected, exfiltrating on stolen trucks before Luftwaffe scrambled. Panzer Army logs tally 400 Axis trucks lost monthly to such phantoms, fuel hemorrhaging faster than Stalingrad snow. This desert alchemy trickled to successors. Post-WDWO, British SAS influenced Commonwealth kin. Rhodesian Cella scouts in bush war, light as fireflies amid overloaded Portuguese columns. But Australia? Their Sasa stood up 1957 amid Malayan emergency, drank deepest from Sterling's wellspring. Diaries from Captain Rod Nieskamp, SASR founding cadre, echo. Pommy lessons burned in. Vietnam rucks at 50 pounds bogus. Malaya Paras ghosted with 15, owned the jungle. By Afghanistan, it was DNA. Werner's Africa Corps crumbled by El Alamein, ghosts haunting Panzer. Yet the blueprint endured. Overload breeds tombs, leanness, legend. As Allied torches swept the sands, one axiom forged in fire whispered across decades. In the Hindu Kush's echo, burdens unbroken invited the blade. Rain lashed the triple canopy jungle like 1,000 venomous needles, turning the earth into a sucking morass that claimed boots and morale alike. It was EWO 4:30 hours, August 14, 1965, deep in the Batankali foothills, Malaya, stronghold of the Malayan Communist Party, MCP, where Chinpeng's guerrillas ruled from hidden lean-to camps, their AK-47s rusting under monsoon deluge. Detachment Commander Li Wei huddled in his elevated bamboo bunker, 30 fighters arrayed in clay-smeared foxholes, ears tuned to the downpour's roar. His spies in Kuala Lumpur had warned of the Commonwealth hammer. Australian troops inbound, backed by Gurkhas and Scots Guards, humping 50-pound Bergens bloated with mortars, radios, and tinned bully beef for a slog through the slime. These were no green conscripts. SS selection badges glinted on some shoulders, but Lee smirked at the intel photo. Plate-laden vests, machine gun tripods, water bladders sloshing like bloated corpses. Imperial dogs drown in their own fat, Lee growled to his second, passing a soggy MCP ambushes had gutted similar patrols before. January 64, a British company pinned at Ulu Langat, gasping under 60-pound loads, shredded by pit traps and grenades as they floundered single file. Lee's own raid on a supply dump yielded discarded U.S. issue packs from Vietnam advisors, demo charges, law rockets, enough gear to fortify Singapore. These Western elites trained for saturation, overkill firepower, medevac chains. But the jungle was equalizer. Vines snared heavy rucks, heatstroke felled the armored before leeches did. Then the rain's rhythm fractured. No thunder of boots churning mud, no snap of branches under overloaded frames, just a whisper, like leaves sighing in updraft. Lee's perimeter sentries froze. One radioed in Malay dialect, voice cracking. Hantu, ghosts on the wire, light steps, no splash. By 0500, pandemonium. Lee's bunker erupted in pinpoint Lewis gunfire. Silenced bursts from 15-pound packs, stripped L1A1 rifles, Fairbairn Sykes daggers, Claymore remotes no bigger than fists, no breaching blast, Shadows infiltrated via game trails, exfiltrating with 3 lieutenants zip-tied, camp torched by white phosphorus the size of golf ball. SAS's 1 squadron, fresh from Perth's Swan Valley selection hell, had ghosted 25 kilometers overnight, twice the burdened Brits' pace, detection zero. Declassified Australian Army Historical Unit reports from 1972, cross-referenced with captured MCP diaries seized in Operation Hammer, unveil the scalpel, pre-SASR patrols. Malayan scouts, laden like Christmas trees with 40-pound No. 4 Enfields and 2-inch mortars, bogged down at 2 kph, ambushed 70% en route. SASR flipped the script. Featherweight doctrine, per founding CO Colonel George Blamey's playbook, drawn from Sterling's Desert Ghost. Analogies scorched in, heavy infantry as Spanish galleons, majestic but swamped by typhoons. SASR as Malay prahus, bamboo light, slicing currents unseen. A 1966 RAF Intel summary clocked it. Burdened forces evaded 20% of contacts. Light squads 85%. Kill ratios inverted. 1.10 enemy losses. Lee's journal, translated in ASIO files post-surrender, drips terror. The fat ones crash like water buffalo, trails steaming with sweat. But these Aussies, no footprint, no breath fog. My boys stab shadows, wake with knives in hands. Dread metastasized. SASR's crucible, 21 days in Bindoon's furnace, 100-mile rucks on half water. Then hump and dump, where failures shed gear mid-march, humping naked endurance, bred it. Trooper memoirs like Shadow Warrior, declassified 1995. Confess, Week 2, Bergen rips on razor wire. OC, cut the excess or cut your throat. We learned, every ounce is enemy eyes. This wasn't anomaly. Borneo confrontation, 1964. Indonesian paratroops under Major Agus underestimate. Overloaded U.S. MACV advisors humped 55 pounds through Kalimantan swamps, easy marks for RPG. SASR countered. 18-pound shadows scaled 2,000-foot ridges, hearts and minds flips, befriending Iban trackers, vanishing into folklore. Confrontation cross-garrison records tally 22 blue jobs, clandestine demos, bridges dropped, ammo caches sparked, with 20-pound full boats paddling rivers undetected. Contrast Vietnam's Green Berets, lauded for A-Team's 60-pound rucks in Ia Drang, but bogged in triple canopy, pursuit speeds halved by demo brick. By dawn, Lee's cell hemorrhaged. SASR vectored long-range patrols onto his HVTs, light loads enabling parallel infiltration, snatch and grabs before monsoon lifted. MCP radio nets wailed, "Kangaroos leap invisible." A 1968 Joint Intelligence Committee brief credits SASR with fracturing 15% of Peng's supply web. Troop commitments 1/8 UK levels. U.S. counterparts marveled in MACV logs. Aussies fight leaner than our demos, speed trumps steel. Echoes rippled to Vietnam proper. SASR rotations to Phuoc Tue, 1966. Overloaded U.S. Marines stormed Long Tan under 50-pound loads, heroic but pinned. Aussie shadows flanked with 22 pounds broke the siege. Captain Harry Smith's diary, Yanks haul the world, we carry victory. Lee vanished into Thailand's border haze, ghosts his fever dream. Yet the chain tightened. From Malaya's slime to Nam's fire, overload scripted. As chopper blades thumped victory overhead, a sterner trial loomed. White deserts where minimalism met mechanized hell, forging the blade for Hindu Kush peaks. Sand scoured the horizon like ground glass under a merciless moon, turning the Iraqi desert to a white-hot furnace even at midnight. It was 145 hours, February 22, 1991, in the vast emptiness of the H-3 airfield complex, western Iraq, nerve center of Saddam Hussein's Scud missile program, ringed by Republican Guard battalions in T-72 tanks and BMPs, their diesel fumes mingling with the acrid bite of chem-ready artillery. Major Ahmed Al-Tikriti, Fedayeen commander of a 200-man perimeter force, crouched in his concrete revetment, night vision binoculars sweeping the dunes. Coalition jets screamed overhead, but ground intel from Baghdad whispered of the infidel spearhead, U.S. Delta Force and Rangers inbound, burdened with 60-pound rucks for the long haul. ANPVS-7 NVGs, saw gunners with 1,000-round belts, demo satchels for bunker busting, plate carriers groaning under ceramic slabs. These were the same Americans who'd shredded Kuwaiti lines in 100 hours, humping Desert Storm overload, M249s, AT-4s, medical evac kits for fallout hell. Tikriti spat into the dust, grinning at his radio man. They carry their oil wells on their backs. By Fajr, the scorpions will feast. His patrols had mauled similar probes. January incursions near Basra, where Yankee Marines floundered under 55-pound loads. Tracks visible from MiGs, easy prey for Hind gunships and minefields. Captured gear from Highway 8 ambushes told the tale. Laser designators the size of briefcases, GPS bricks, enough C4 to glass the Euphrates. Spec Ops trained for Armageddon, Fort Bragg's Q course forging overload endurance, 50-mile rucks in Nevada heat. But the desert was tyrant. Mirages hid RPG teams, thirst cracked lips before Kevlar did. Then the wind shifted. No rumble of tracked vehicles probing minefields, no labored grunts echoing across wadis, just an eerie hush, broken by a distant goat bleat. Tikriti's gut twisted. Sakan, where is the thunder? His outposts crackled panic. Australians, shadows on the berms, fast as gazelles, no dust plume. By 02:50, Inferno. Fuel bowsers erupted in thermobaric whooshes from precisely placed date cord, 20-pound packs yielding satchel charges no bigger than prayer rugs. Tikriti's flank dissolved as figures materialized. Desert ghillie suits blending with sands, stripped F-88 rifles suppressed to whispers, comms antennae like Bedouin daggers. No heavy breaches. They slit throats, tagged Scud launches with beacons the size of dates, vanished before T-72s pivoted. Australian SAS's one squadron tactical reconnaissance patrol, legends of selection's Bindoon brutality, had infiltrated 300 kilometers from Saudi lines in 5 days. Twice the burdened Yanks' speed, zero detection. Declassified Australian Joint Operations Command reports from 2004, corroborated by CENTCOM intercepts, and Saddam's own Ba'athist archives seized in 2003, exposed the Phantom Doctrine, pre-SASR Gulf probes, U.S. SEAL platoons, humping 50-pound Zodiacs and Stingers across Kuwait berms. Detected at 4 kPa, 60% compromised by IR signature. Aussies inverted it. Knife-edge minimalism. Perseo Lieutenant Colonel Ian Curley Watts after action, echoing Sterling via Malaya. Analogies burned deep. Delta as Teutonic Knights, full harness gleaming but mired in Crusader sands. SASR as Tuareg Raiders, camel loads featherlight, scimitars flashing from mirages. A 1992 ADF analysis clocked the Delta. Heavy teams evaded 30% of patrols, light patrols 92%, Scud disruptions quadrupled, 124 mobile launchers blinded, airfields cratered, with 1/15 the footprint. From his shattered CP, Tikriti scrawled in a frantic ledger recovered by 22 SAS follow-ups. The Americans grind like iron caterpillars, trails blazing for our eyes. But these kangaroo devils, no footprint, no exhaust. My guards shoot at wind, piss themselves whispering of gin with Australian tongues. Paranoia poisoned the ranks. SASR's forge, 21-day Flinders Ranges apocalypse, 160-mile Bergen slashed to 25 pounds mid-beast. Instructors torching excess gear in mock demos instilled it. Patrol leader Scotty's debrief extract, unredacted 2010. Day 12, ruck splits on Flint. Boss, every gram's a grave marker, strip or starve. We stripped illusion. This wasn't isolated brilliance. Operation Desert Saber's Scud hunts pitted overloaded U.S. 101st Air Assault Pathfinder, 60-pound Halo rig, laser-guided bombs against Iraqi armor lane. Heroic but daylight-bound. SASR ghosts paralleled. 18-pound patrols on Honda trail bikes stripped bare, beaching Scuds with hand-placed mines, exfilling on Camelback before AS-365s lift. Coalition logs tally 22 Iraqi brigades decapitated via Aussie intel, fuel convoys starved. Contrast SEAL's famed Kafji raids, lauded for 50-pound beach assaults, but pinned by T-55s, exfil delayed by demo wave. Aussie shadows owned the night, per General Schwarzkopf's private note. Aussies fight deserts like they own them, lean, mean, invisible. Tikriti's network imploded by dawn. SASR vectored F-117s onto his missile farms. Light mobility enabling orbit-denied hides. HVTs plucked before MiG-29's fuel. Ba'ath radios howled, desert foxes without tails. A 1995 U.S. Army Green Book credits SASR with 35% of deep battle kills, despite 2% troop slice. Delta operators toasted in Baghdad bars post-victory. Yanks haul the hammer. Aussies wield the scalpel. As Abrams columns thundered liberation, Tikriti fled to Tikrit cellars, specters in his delirium. But the deserts whispered forward. From Rommel's sands to Saddam's hell, Overload chained Titan, leanness unchained gods. A final crucible beckoned, mountain crags where ghosts reclaimed their forge, proving the blade eternal against the ultimate vertical foe. Frost clawed the sheer cliffs like frozen talons, wind howling through the 12,000-foot passes of Mirabad Valley, Helmand Province, Afghanistan, Taliban redoubt where al-Qaeda emirs plotted from cave complexes honeycombed into granite. It was 01:15 hours, October 3, 2010, amid Operation Herrick's brutal endgame. Haji Gul Muhammad, shadow governor and Mullah Rahim's successor, clutched his PKM machine gun in a wind-lashed Dshorka atop the ridgeline, his 80 fighters entrenched with RPG-7s, DSHKs, and daisy-chained IED. Drone chatter from his spotters painted the approach. U.S. Navy SEALs from DevGru Red Squadron, reinforced by Rangers, grinding up the choke point under 55-pound assault loads, M4A1s with PQs, javelins in man-portable tubes, plate racks sagging like medieval jousters, breaching kits for cave assaults, TACMED rucks stuffed for hypothermic evac. These were bin Laden slayers, fresh from Abbottabad glory, humping black soil verticals at 1 kph, breaths rasping like bellows 2 clicks below. Gul spat bloody phlegm into the abyss, murmuring to his mujahid radioman, "The Americans bear mountains on their spines. Allah will shatter them at the coal." His network had feasted on such slugs before. Rahim's ghost stories, but intel from captured NVGs confirmed SEALs 2010 Shah Wali Kotpur, overloaded for multi-day sieges, pinned by 500 Taliban, calling hellfires only after hours of exposure. Recovered U.S. gear from Panjwai dumps, Soflem lasers weighing bricks, 40mm grenade bandoliers, screamed excess. SEAL training Bible, Bud's Phase 3 evolutions, drilled overload, 20-mile O-course rucks in Coronado surf, forging titans for every contingency. But altitude was assassin. Thin air starved engines, frost-rimed optics, pursuit impossible. Silence devoured the gale. No clatter of carabiners, no frost crunch under burdened souls. Just a void colder than the Hindu Kush itself. Gul's bowels iced. "Nashud, where is their roar?" Outposts erupted in static. Aussie Shayateen, lightning from the flanks. No tracks, no frostbite trails. By 0230, Apocalypse, SASR's 2 Squadron. Recce patrol materialized like altitude mirages. 19-pound shadows, scaling sheer faces via etriers and ice screws, feather-light as prayer beads. Suppressed EF-88s whispered death. HVTs double-tapped mid-prayer rugs. Beacons lasered on ammo caves before J-dams kissed. No demo thunder. Micro C4 puffs collapsed tunnels. Exfil on parafoils before dawn-gilded peaks. Covering 8 kph vertical in pitch black. Twice SEALs burden crawl. 0 signatures. Joint Task Force 633 declassified ops logs from 2022. Taliban signal intercepts archived at DND Canberra. And Gul's blood-soaked sat-phone transcript, seized post A. Quapmer, unveiled the zenith. SEAL planned hammer and anvil for Mirabad, envisioned 50-pound direct action, multi-platoon humps yielding 40% exposure. SASR's Ghost Vector, layered patrols orbiting undetected high-altitude insertion via CH-47 ramps at 11,000 feet. Load slashed to titanium cams, 1 mag per man, SATCOMs palm-sized. Analogies immortal, SEALs as overloaded Byzantine cataphracts, invincible charges devolving to glacial roots. SASR as Afghan hill wolves, packs mere pelts, fangs eternal. A 2013 ADF doctrinal review, citing ISAF metrics, nailed it. Burdened ops detected at 2.5 kph ascent, compromise 65%, light teams 7 kph, evasion 98%, HVT kill rate 5.1 superior. Gul's entire cell erased, 22 emirs bagged, supply nodes starved. Gul's final scribbles, etched in cave floor clay before the knife found his throat. Yankee giants thunder peaks, avalanches heralding doom, but Aussie wraiths, breath of Iblis, frost ghosts, scaling impossible. My lions rend air, dream of nooses from clouds. Terror was marrow deep, lineages converging. Sterling's desert seed via Malaya's slime, Gulf's sands, blooming in Bindoon's 21-day apocalypse. Candidates Bergen dumping mid-200-mile Binduk beasts, instructors igniting luxuries as beacons. SASR Trooper Viper's 2014 memoir extract. Peak 14, gear fractures on shale. DS, ounces own you, own the void, owned ghosts. Synthesis scorched the ledger. Afghanistan's ledger closed SASR's arc. 2001's Tarnak farm interdiction. 18-pound shadows beaching Taliban convoys while SEALs hammered headlines. 2007's Cora snatch, flanking overloaded Dutch commandos. 2011's Syed Obaid wedding demo, where 20-pound infill outpaced drone-tasked SEALs. CENTCOM's 2015 Helmand autopsy credits SASR with 28% Tier 1 kill. 1/20th U.S. rotation, speeds arithmetic. SEALs dominated compounds, but mountains mocked mass. Aussies pierced psyches, per Rahim Tagul paranoia waves fracturing command. By false dawn, Mirabad smoked. SASR melted into exfil LZ, parafoils whispering victory as Apaches cycled hot. Gul's empire vaporized. Taliban high command hemorrhaged. Kabul handover accelerated. Shadows unthanked. Echoes from Rommel's wrecks to Saddam's bunkers affirmed. Overload forged chains across eras. Minimalism keys. Yet war's deepest forge yields this. In the scales of survival, every superfluous pound tips toward the grave. He who travels lightest conquers farthest.